was it that drew you into radio initially? I think we've all got something that draws us in. What was that pull for you initially?
Well, it's probably just that idea of being in my bedroom and listening to somebody talking to me without having to leave the house or, phone a friend as it was back then. It's just the idea of somebody somewhere having a laugh, playing amazing music that they loved, and me on the receiving end, really. So I suppose it was to combat a form of loneliness, and it was entertainment, and it was opening up the world, because when you're in your bedroom, this was pre-internet, this is mid-1990s, so you couldn't go online to see what was happening elsewhere in the world. So the radio then, people often talk about John Peel, the late great John Peel. He was like the music internet before all the streaming platforms. He would bring in dub and reggae and punk and rock and folk and just play things that he found interesting. A bit like a playlist would today, or a bit like a YouTube site like the Little Desk Sessions or the Colours Session. He was all of that in one radio show. It was opening up the world really, to bringing the world to your bedroom, which was amazing.
Yeah, and radio is such a fantastic tool for doing that. And one of the things that I think is so fantastic about radio is that it's a friend. It's there for you. You can be on your own or feel a bit lonely. Radio is always there for you. So, young Huw was falling in love with radio. At what point did you think, I actually wouldn't mind giving this a go. I'm going to take it out of my bedroom and I'm going to put it into practice?
So it was through the Duke of Edinburgh Award. It was in Whitchurch Youth Club, where they said, right, you've got to go now to go and do volunteer somewhere for a year. So I asked if I could volunteer in a radio station, not knowing what was going to happen. And the lady came back and said, we've got you a place in Rookwood Sound Hospital Radio, which is in Llandaff. And so I started volunteering there every Tuesday afternoon, every Saturday morning. I would hoover, I would put records back on the shelf in alphabetical order, I would look at the DJs doing their thing. And then about a year in then they went, you can have your, I guessed, I do little reviews and things on different radio bits and bobs. And then I started my own show on hospital radio every Tuesday for about an hour and a half. And that was it then. That was the bug had bitten, that was my big hobby. And I just loved it. And there was an independent record label called Angst in Cardiff, who put out early Super Furry Animals and Gorkies and things like that. And I got them to sponsor the radio show by giving me a massive pile of CDs. Again, this is the olden days, right? So this is a pile of CDs. So I play Roxy music, and then I play a Topper song, and then I play the Lighthouse Family, and then I play something new from a Welsh band, and so on and so on. So that's how I started doing the radio. And as you know, Molly, the more radio you do on any platform, whatever the radio station, or whether just you just create stuff at home, the more you practice, the easier it becomes. I'm not going to say the better you become, because some people might not everyone likes everyone on the radio. So it's just about you becoming comfortable with your own voice, isn't it? And your own what do you want to say, and how do you say things and wrap things up, and what kind of radio show do you want to make? And so because I love new music radio shows like Steve Lamacq and Joe White's Evening Session, that was like a no-brainer. That's what I wanted to do, And it was at the same time there was a lot of really exciting music being made in Wales in both languages, in Welsh and English. So it was good times.
Is there anybody in this room who does radio, or is into radio, or is looking to get into radio? Yeah, quite a few of us. So, that jump sort of from community to hospital, obviously you've had such an incredible career and continue to have such an incredible career in the radio industry. Where did you go from there? What was that next step for you?
So everyone will say, in music and in radio, it's who you know, I always think. And that's not a bad thing. That's not like, I don't know them, so I can't get in there. It's literally about what Beacons does and everything, other platforms, the Horizons and everything. And 40, going to gigs, talking to people, people, meeting like-minded musicians, and it's the same in radio. So I used to review songs for late night Radio Cymru. I was called Dr. Pop, and I would get £10 every 2 weeks for reviewing a CD on the phone. And I used to do that when I was about 15, same time as hospital radio. And then I was going to gigs. I tell them, you know, when I was about 15, 16, you could get into club then without ID.
Those were the days.
Yeah, you weren't meant to, but you could, I think. And like just generally, ID was a lot more relaxed back then. You know, you could have fake ID, you know. And the Challenge 21 hadn't been invented, you know. So anyway, I'd go to a lot of gigs, and then I was at I met Bethan Elfyn. So I owe Bethan Elfyn my entire radio career. Bethan Elfyn, who heads up the Horizons project now through BBC Wales. At the time, she was a producer on Radio Cymru in Bangor. And so I knew that she was a producer because I was doing I was doing reviews for Radio Cymru. I'd never met her. And then I met her at a gig. And I said to her, I know who you are, I've heard of you, you're Bethan Elfyn, I really want to get into radio. And she remembered, and she got me into, I told her I did hospital radio, and she got me into do pilots, which is like practice radio shows, like a demo for radio. And she got lots of presenters in to do it, and they whittled us down, and we started a show together then, which was Radio 1, session in Wales. It was 1999. Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales were getting their own radio shows on Radio 1. And so I was 18 getting that job. So I was very much in the right place at the right time. I was very lucky to meet Bethan and to get that slot and to do that job. And it was an exciting time, as I said. You know, devolution was happening across the nations. Bands were breaking through. You had a wave of Scottish bands and a wave of Welsh bands breaking into the charts, which hadn't happened at the same time before. So it was a very exciting time, yeah.
What an exciting time, like you say, to get into the industry when all those things were happening. It's not the same, it's different now, isn't it?
Yeah. I was going to go and do media studies. That was the plan, and I wanted to be a radio producer like Bethan. That was my dream.
Did you go to uni?
No, I didn't go. See, I joined. I got a job from Radio 1 for a year. It was a year contract, and so I said, well, if that doesn't work out, I'll then go back to uni, hopefully do media studies. But the contract rolled on, and we did Session in Wales for I think about 7 years, and then Bethan did the show on her own for a little bit, and then I did a different show on my own for a bit, and carried on. So yeah.
Well, it's a good job. Everything worked out for you. Didn't have to write any dissertations or anything.
I didn't, no.
So from my experience in radio, I've often found myself, just from the nature of the job, in some pretty bizarre situations that if you told me when I was a teenager that I'd be doing that, I'd be like, what are you talking about? You have, you've done it all. You've been to Glastonbury, you've been to all these festivals. What is one memory that sticks out in your head where you thought to yourself in the situation, how did I get here? How is this happening?
I remember going to Reading Festival when I was 16, and Steve Lamack was the compere on the main stage introducing all the bands, and he came out on stage to introduce the first band on at Reading, who were the Stereophonics at the time, long time ago. And he came out on stage and he went, how many members of Steps does it take to wallpaper a room? Steps were like a boy-girl band. And depends how thinly you slice them. Please welcome Stereophonics. I went, wow, that's amazing. So I wasn't on the radio then, of course. So years later, I got the job of the main stage compere at Reading. So it was probably that, really. And having to introduce, the job was to play songs between bands and introduce Queens of the Stone Age. And I asked Josh Holley, how do you want me to say? And he wrote down on a piece of paper, from the top of heaven to the bottom of hell, Queens of the Stone Age. I've still got it somewhere on A4 paper.
Did you introduce some of that?
So I said that. I said exactly that, yeah. And then, before Eminem, I was playing songs and I played, do you remember B.O.B. Airplanes?
I do,
Yeah.
I do.
So I played that. I thought, this will get the crowd going, you know. Airplanes in the night sky. And then I played, and then about 20 seconds later, the biggest security guard I've ever seen comes over, slams his hand on the CDJ, stops the song, and goes, "You do not play a Marshall Mathers song before Marshall Mathers." And I was like petrified, you know, because I didn't realise that he did a remix of the song in his set. But I had no, it's like playing Arctic Monkey song before the Arctic Monkeys, isn't it? You don't
It's
do
a
that.
big no.
You don't do that.
Aspiring DJs, don't do that. Do not play the artist before the artist play if you're supporting them.
And don't even play an artist affiliated with that artist or a remix, because you might be ruining the band's set.
You might be getting a big security guard coming over and slamming their hand on the CDJ, which is not something that you particularly want.
So it's probably that in terms of like weird stuff. But you know, radio is an amazing medium. So every show is, you know, the idea of sitting in a studio on your own with loads of songs to talk, it's quite an unusual thought, but you get an unusual idea, but you get used to it, don't you? And you get a bit of planning and songs. So, yeah, I mean, but yeah, I think to be interesting bands and artists. There was a time I was on daytime Radio 1 on Saturday and Sunday in the afternoon, and you know, with that, you know, I'd interview One Direction and Taylor Swift and, you know, all sorts of massive worldwide artists. It's very different to interviewing a new artist who are at the beginning of a music trip or whatever, because when you're famous, you sort of know what the songs, you know, who they are, and if it's Katy Perry or somebody, you sort of know what to ask, and you're often told what to ask as well. Whereas if it's a new artist at the beginning, you can have more of a chat, and you're a bit more relaxed about things. They still have things to say, of course, but it's more difficult in a way interviewing newer artists, because you haven't read about them online or whatever. And they might not have any followers on Instagram and so on, so yeah.
Yeah, and you know, on the topic of sort of new artists, like you've just explained, you've spoken to some of the biggest pop stars in the world. I remember you showed me a picture of you with Taylor Swift, and I was like, what? Like the biggest pop star in the world. How has the industry changed over, because you've been such a champion of new artists over the years, and you've seen them come up and go above and beyond. You've seen some come and go, and there's lots of young artists here in this room today. So how have you seen the industry change in your time in a music kind of way?
Well, streaming's changed everything, which is great. In one way, I think the world's a lot smaller now. Back to Katie from Chroma's session a minute ago, you know, it's people are more open to lots of different genres and not just one genre. I think it mostly happened during the 2010s, where just everything just blended and nobody is as territorial or as parochial or as worried about genre as before, which is healthy. People can like everything. So when I was growing up, it was mostly, you know, you had to be, it was like, you were hip-hop head or you were, you know, indie rock or whatever. Whereas most people, I think, liked all sorts of different genres and all sorts of different songs, which is a lot healthier. And so that's changed a lot. In terms of like the music industry, I think it's probably more competitive. I think there's probably less breaking through and making it now. I think people create music because they love it and because they want to make it. Having that, you know, nobody ever comes up to your music and gives you a certificate and says you've made it. I suppose a chart trophy would be the closest to that. You're number one. Well done. But that doesn't mean you stop. You know, it's a constant thing. Even like working with a record label, that's when the work begins, you know, whether that's a big or a small independent record label. So yeah, I think here in Wales, like, you know, it's always London, and it will probably always be London, because London is one of the world centres of the music industry. But I think what streaming has done and what's happened in the last 10 years is the world's become smaller. So, you know, artists from all over the world have, doesn't matter if they sing in English or not, where it doesn't matter where you're from and what language you sing in, you have it's easier to connect with people. Having said that, it's also, there's so much music now, and the value of music's changed a lot since I got into radio, whereas I'd have to go to buy a melody maker or an NME on a Wednesday, and then I'd buy a compact disc in Spillers or HMV or whatever, and that was it really. And you hear songs on the radio, whereas now I think the value of music's changed a lot. So it's definitely harder to make a living, but I think, you know, if you concentrate on the songs and the music that you're making, and you find your people and your tribes and your community, then you've got a shot then as well.
I also think there's different ways of measuring your success as a musician as well. You know, it doesn't have to be like, I got in the top 10. You know, if you were like, we done our first support slot, we put our first track on streaming platforms, you know, I think there's different ways of measuring success nowadays, and I think you have to look at it that way sometimes when there's so much going on and so much to compete with as well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think with radio, you know, people think, oh, I've got to get radio play and then everything will be okay, you know. I've done enough radio shows where I've played a song, plugged a gig, I've gone to the gig, and there's been 3 people there. You know, it's not the be-all and end-all. Nothing's the be-all and end-all. As you say, it's like, it is, without sounding like a cliche, it's a journey, and it's a constant. And do you enjoy it? And, you know, as you say, the idea of making it is a lot more vague now. So it's like a massive jigsaw, I think, as well, where radio play is nice if you get one, if you get some, as you say, support slot, or if you get a like on your song, or somebody comments, and so on, or a gig. The list of things is endless, but it's, yeah, so it all kind of it can come together at times. Yeah. And with help and support and listening to people, I think it can, you know, that's why I think what Beacons is doing with Forte and the kind of managerial behind the scenes side of things is really important. Because, you know, an artist should be just creative and should just have fun and make music. But of course they don't, they have to manage themselves, they have to book things, they have to be organised. Ideally, you know, you don't have to be all of those things, but it helps to be.
I know plenty of musicians who are not.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's how it should be, you know. But hopefully there's managers out there who are organised and people who can help plot. And it's a bit like a radio producer and a DJ in a way. Like a radio producer, I heard somebody describe it as a producer is like the person who designs the racetrack, and then Molly is the DJ who drives the fast car on the racetrack. It's good. And has a nice car. And makes it sound fun, and makes it sound effortless. But the producers plotted the route of the show. So I suppose I'm talking in.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
makes sense.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you guys?
Yeah.
Oh, a big yes.
Right
That is the energy that we need for a Wednesday afternoon. So, as a radio presenter here, when you know, as we've spoken about, like someone who is really into new music, particularly coming from here in Wales, you are certainly a champion of that. What is the best way for artists to approach radio people? Because the industry is so just full of things that artists are told they should do. Get a radio plugger, pay loads of money for PR, blah, 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 blah. What would your advice be?
Make music that you're proud of, make music that you love and that you're happy with. Back to what I was saying earlier, find your community and find your things. If there's no gigs happening where you are, put a gig on. Talk to other artists as well. Support slots, the festivals that we have in Wales, the Focus Wales, the Sŵn, there's loads of others. And is some of the things I'd say. And yeah, in terms of, I mean, BBC Introducing is a great and really useful, practical, realistic tool of sharing your music as well. I mean, contact DJs if you fancy on the social media pages that you use. You can't guarantee that somebody's going to listen to your music because they get sent a lot of music. But you know, in terms of BBC DJs, all the emails are online. And yeah, I think if there's enough going on, people like me want to know what's happening, so we'll see bands' names on their lineups, we'll hear what Adam Walton's playing on Radio Wales and so on. And so I think if you can get a buzz going wherever you are, people like me are magpies and we come and look for it and, you know, want to support. That's our job, is to support, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why Horizons is a brilliant, you know, the Launchpad Fund, the sessions, the advice is really important and useful. The workshops the Sŵn Festival did last year, and I've done before as well, are really useful as well, just that listening. So I think the more you collect, and don't rush it as well, I think, as well. You know, don't feel that I've got 2 good songs, I'm going to put them online, I'm going to, this is it. Just like, take your time, because I know life's not infinite, but you're hopefully going to be here for a long time, or as long as possible, and so you want to share, you know, you want to make sure that, and I know it's when you're hungry, when you know, really want that to be on those lineups and things, and if that's not coming, I can understand that that's frustrating, or if you're not getting the radio play, or a Launchpad Fund, or whatever, but your time might come, you know, and it's the same with, you take, you know, Adwaith, everyone knows about Adwaith. This is album number 3 for Adwaith, and it's the one that they're proudest of. And he's taken them, you know, a few records and a lot of touring, and they're on that's a journey that they're on, which will probably never end. You know, it'll probably carry on till they decide to quit as a band. So it's my advice would be to not rush it. Enjoy it first and foremost, because if you look like you're enjoying it, or if you are enjoying it, then other people will get involved.
Absolutely, and
including labels.
Exactly. And I think authenticity is such an important element as well. I think lots of people can sniff an authenticity a mile off. So that's what I look for anyway. Certainly, is it authentic? Yeah. Is it true to this person?
Yeah, and you can't teach that, can you? You can't learn that. It either is or it isn't. And also, music is always in the, you know, someone's listening to it and might not hear what you hear. Because that's the great thing about music, is there's so much of it, and everyone has different music taste, and everyone has the best music taste because it's theirs. And so you might make a song which you think is next level, the next person might not, but that doesn't matter. Don't be disheartened, just keep going.
Be open to feedback as well. I think that's an important thing. Going back again, obviously your love for music is very apparent. Where did that come from? Was it a parent thing? Was it a radio thing? Like, oh, Steve Lamacq was feeding you when you were in your bedroom?
I think it was radio. I think it was the idea that a song's not just a song. It's from somewhere. It represents something. It's on a label that represents something, or the song says something that you haven't heard but you've done before. It's art, isn't it? You know, and it's a song is 3 minutes of, or however long it is, of pure art, and some songs stick with you and some don't. So I think it was that, really. I mean, my parents like Johnny Cash, and I had 3 older sisters who were into lots of bands like The Cure and U2, and also a lot of Welsh language bands like Fat Coffee Pow. But in fact, I found the Fat Coffee Pow badge in my pocket just now. But anyway, it's a very good documentary about Fat Coffee Pow, the band who became Super Furry Animals, on iPlayer. Worth watching if you get a chance. It was on over Christmas.
You are always coming forth with the documentary recommendations.
Well, I'm old, so that's what I'm doing now. I watch documentaries on iPlayer. The old man.
That is not the sort of rating on if you're old or not. I personally, I'm 26, I like me a good old documentary on the iPlayer as well.
Yeah, good music doc on the iPlayer is good. Good music book I enjoy as well.
Well, I mean, you wrote one. You're an author now.
Oh, yeah, well, yeah.
You're like saying, oh, like you forgot.
I wasn't a plug. Well, my book's a coffee table book. Basically, all my books are all the music books, but there wasn't a book called about Wales, records from Wales, and I had one about Brazilian records and so on. So I wrote a book called Wales 100 Records, and I chose 100 different records from Wales, with everything, you know, from the 50s up until now. And yeah, so that came out last year. But it's a coffee table book, so it's the artwork on one side and then words on the other. And it's everything from Mace the Great's in there, Adwaith, Gwenor, folk stuff, dance, electronic stuff, Kelly Lee Owens. The obvious ones, you had to have Tom Jones in there.
Of course.
Have to have Super Furries, have to have the Manics, Bonnie Tyler's in
Phonics. Essential.
Phonics are in there.
They're on the first page, aren't they?
Stereophonics on the first page. That's to draw people in and go, oh, and then they'll buy it, and then they'll go, I haven't heard of any of these. That's the
Has anyone read the book, or got the book, or seen the book? Yeah, quite a few of us in there.
Oh, nice one.
Diolch yn fawr. It's a fantastic book, but whenever I read it, I always am like, how did you even go through the process of whittling down all of these records? I mean, there are hundreds of records that came out on Sign record label launch. You know what? There's so many.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
I didn't think about it too much. Some are download only, like the Dare album was only a download, that only exists on streaming platforms. I just didn't think about it too much, to be honest. I just went with what would I expect to see. Some records I love in it, some that I'd never heard before, like the Bonnie Tyler album I hadn't listened to. It's called Faster Than the Speed of Night. So I enjoyed listening to that. And yeah, just kind of, because it's back to what I was saying earlier, that records aren't just, it's not just about the music, it's about where they're from, when they came out. So Dub War's in it, and their words I've written is about Newport and about the Newport Rising. So, you know, we're called the land of song, aren't we, Wales? But often I think, literature and art is always seen as like more prestigious sometimes than music. Music's just something that you do. Gigs are just happening in a place like this, you know. It's like, yeah, bands, whatever. But actually it's really important, and it should be on a, you know, it should be valued, and the music scene needs to be, and venues need to be looked after and funded and so on. So, yeah, that's why. And there's loads of books about great Welsh art and great Welsh literature, but not that many about music from Wales.
Yeah, I think.
Which is weird, really.
It is quite strange, actually,
Yeah.
isn't it? Land of Song. Where's the music book as well? Enter group chat.
Well, there's a few, yeah. I mean, there's what I did one.
I mean, but like in a contemporary way as well, and it's very easy to read. It's, you know, and it's got the lovely pictures of the records as well, so you can see it. Do you reckon there'll be a book too?
No, because it's really hard work writing books, and I've got very soft hands. I haven't done hard days work in my life.
Did you hand? So you were.
Yeah, typing it. Oh. Yeah, typing.
You made it sound like you were writing with a quill.
With a quill, by candlelight.
Listening to your records on a gramophone.
Yeah, in that building next to Club of the Bach, that's derelict. In the floor on a Saturday night.
Well, what a way to spend that. And I would have been next door, slamming Taylor Swift or something similar, probably. We have actually got I don't know who's in charge of the slides, but we did have a QR code.
Oh, yeah, she's a good idea.
Okay. We have got a QR code. So we are going to open the floor to questions shortly. But if you feel maybe a little bit too shy and you don't want to raise your hand, I do have this connected to my phone. So scan the QR code and you can send your questions in to this form. So we've spoken a lot about the past here. We've done some reminiscing.
The old days.
The good old days. But I would like to do some forward thinking now. You have done so much with your career. I know we're talking about the past again. Are there any other points or like sort of bucket list moments that you would like to hit career-wise, do you think?
I've never been ambitious like that. I mean, to be on Six Music, I do a show every day on Six Music now, is a dream come true. I think, you know, I love the radio station. I think I said it was the best radio station even when I was on Radio 1. I think it's amazing. So to be on there is the dream, really.
How did you feel when they gave you the news? Where were you? What was happening?
I was in the studio in Cardiff, and yeah, I cried, of course. Sat on the floor and cried, because I get to do the show from Cardiff, and so to do it every day, yeah, it's a dream come true doing that. Yeah.
You're Deed Music Cymru, that's you as well, isn't it?
No, it's
Is
not.
It not?
No, that's a Welsh government thing, Deed Music Cymru. But I supported.
Are you? Well, It says online, Huw, you need to get on that. It says Welsh Music, Beacons CYMRU was started by Huw Stephens. I mean,
I'm happy to take the I also invented Cardiff Bus. Because we didn't have buses in Cardiff.
he also heads up Cardiff Council, guys.
Yeah, and I'm head of Cardiff Council. And I also invented Chippy Lane as well. Because we didn't have a street full of chip shops. So we opened the street. So,
a man of firsts, if you will. So we've got some questions here for you, Huw.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So, as a new, this is from Anonymous, by the way. As a new artist, how do you go about making the jump from local radio coverage to the likes of BBC 6 Music and BBC Radio 2?
Oh yeah, good question. Well, you know, you were talking about pluggers earlier. There can come a stage where if you are getting momentum on radio platforms, on radio shows, on radio stations, then, you know, you get a taste for it, and that's a good time to get somebody in to help you work with radio pluggers. Don't give them all your money. Make sure they like the music. Make sure they understand where you come from. Be realistic. Make sure they're realistic with you. But that's where, and the same with press as well. You can, you know, I wouldn't get a press person in to get into, say, Buzz magazine, local listings magazine, although I think they do like that as well. But also, you know, if things are going well, you want to get online, or into Dork magazine, or Crack, or So Young, or DIY magazine, things like that, then they do use press people. Yeah.
It's a mixed bag, isn't it? Depends on who you're trying to target.
It is, but also the personal touch is good. If a magazine or a DJ that you listen to or read, or a website that you go on to, you could just DM them, you could just contact them and say, I like your thing, this is what I do, you know, this is roughly what it looks like, what it sounds like, do you want to feature it? Because obviously, how it looks is important if it's an online mag or a platform online, isn't it?
Fantastic.
That's why I said look.
Yeah.
Obviously, how it sounds is the most important thing for radio. We don't care, do we, what a band or an artist looks like.
Oh, absolutely not.
You just want to know that the song sounds good on the radio.
Yeah, and that's it. Making sure that your music is radio playable as well. It is a big thing. We've got a really interesting question here. Is there anything you would do differently once looking back on your career so far?
Ooh, probably. I mean, I missed out on playing loads of things that got on to be enormous, like Calvin Harris and Ed Sheeran. But, you know, that's by the by, they've done all right, everyone's happy. But, you know, I mean, there's just not enough hours in the day, is the truth, to listen to all the music that I get sent and that's out there. So, no, I mean, no regrets, man.
Dim regrets. Love that. I'm going to get that printed on a t-shirt, quoted Huw Stephens. Got a question here. What are your thoughts on a live album being submitted for the Welsh Music Prize?
Oh, I think that's, I don't remember what the rules are. I think that's, I'm not sure. It's a good question.
You made the rules here.
No, well, the rules are, you know, it's not me going, it's this. It's just, it's a work in progress. So I think there's a description on the website of what the eligibilities are for. I remember going to the Canadian Music Prize once, and the weekend one for balloons. This is a long time ago. Yeah, early weekend, and it was controversial because it was only download, and there wasn't, you couldn't buy it on CD or vinyl or tape or mini disc. It was no physical format, and that was really controversial. But obviously, we're all over that now. But so yeah, live album I think is. You know, I think, oh God, I wish I knew the answer properly to this. You'd think I know. Kev, who runs it with me now, knows better than I do. But on the website, there's a long list. So any album released in Wales, from Wales, made by Welsh people, goes on the long list. And then the Welsh Music Prize jury, we need new jury members always. So go on the Welsh Music Prize website, and then they whittle it down to the 15 nominated shortlist albums every year. Everybody can be a jury member. We'd appreciate it if you want to be. Just email, I think it's info@welshmusicprize.com, and that's how that works. And then that's the shortlist then.
Cool. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Another good question. In your opinion, who are some of your favourite up-and-coming bands in Wales at the moment? People that you're listening to, people that you're going and seeing, people that you're playing?
Yeah. Shale.
Yeah.
Source, who I'm going to go and see tonight in Porters. Excited to see them. They did a great Horizon session last week. Bivig is great. Singer sings in Welsh from Gwynedd. Oh my God. There's loads. Tevin, Minas's new thing.
Yes.
The punk band is great. I saw them play on this stage last year at the Beacons gig, was it? Was that a year ago, Spike?
November.
No.
Oh, November, I was going to say. Feels like more like 4 months ago, right? It was 4 months ago. Who else? Tevin. I mean, there's loads in there. Like, every time I listen to Adam Walton's show or go on Horizons, there's always really interesting stuff. So, but there's 4.
Yeah.
I like Duvel 19.
Oh, I love
He's
Duval
cool,
19.
isn't he? I didn't realise he was in Asteroid Boys back in the day as well.
Really?
Apparently,
Gosh,
yeah.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
So I was too young to be an Asteroid Boys.
A lot of my story.
Who knew it? You learn something new every day. Do we have any questions in the room? Would you like to ask? Hang on, let me come out with the microphone. Let me come out.
Hiya. When you're playing new artists, like, what has been something that a new artist has taught you?
Oh, that's a good question. What's been something that a new artist taught me? I'm not sure if I got a good answer to your good question. Well, I suppose it's back to what Molly was saying. Just it's that authenticity, it's that belief in an artist. Whether that artist's making music that's deemed current or not, it doesn't really matter as long as they have belief in it. I've just seen Danny from Track, and so I think of Keris Havana on the harp and playing the triple harp and making the music that they make. It's just unbelievable. And that sounds good on Six Music, and so I suppose it's just having that conviction and that belief in the music that you make. It's the same with Source tonight. Clearly he's got a vision and talent, and they've grouped together, and it's a collective, and it's just really exciting way of doing something. So I suppose it's, different things from different artists. Is that vague enough answer to your good question? Thank you.
An absolutely fantastic question, and a question that I haven't heard before.
That's a great question.
Yeah, that was a fantastic question. Thank you very much. Anybody else? I'm going to come back to you because you asked a question in the Q&A earlier. There you go.
Hello, Huw. How are you today?
Hello.
So my question is in regards to, you were talking about how since the 2010s, the landscape and sort of genres of music has changed and developed a lot. I was just wondering, relating to that, what's something either within or outside of Wales that has really exemplified that for you, or has sort of gotten you really excited about music recently?
Well, I suppose it's just everything that's out there. It's just that idea that the album is less important, and that single tracks can jump from genre to genre, even from the same artist. It's fine now, whereas before you were this, and if you don't do that, then But I think the 1975 are a good example of the band who genre hop and do it well. And I just think people are less scared, but also less. There's more of a freedom now to just try things out and to collaborate, and great stuff comes out of collaboration. I mean, obviously bands and artists have always done this and brought genres together, but I just think we're in a world now where if you can't describe something, then that's fine, because it was very much used to be gatekeepers and tastemakers who'd have to describe stuff, and journalists would have to say, this is this, and it's in this box, and it's in this pigeonhole, we're going to market it like this. Whereas I think streaming's just opened it up now. So I interviewed Ben Ellis yesterday. I'd never heard of Role Model because I'm 43 and I just hadn't heard of Role Model. And he was telling me about Role Model, you know. So it's just that blending of music is really interesting. Thanks for your question.
Fantastic question. I think it's got to be a quick one, because would you believe Huw Stephens has got a radio show on Six Music? Did anybody know? Does anyone know that? And he's got to be on here at 4 o'clock, so is it going to be a quick one? Thank you very much.
No pressure.
Not at all.
No.
When you mentioned earlier how you got into radio, I'm trying to be as fast
Oh
as
my
I can.
God, you said it so fast. Oh my God.
If someone's trying to get into radio now, the current situation where a lot of the local radio stations are being sucked up by the bigger ones, so where it naturally used to go hospital radio, local radio, national. How do you think someone, to go through as a presenter, as a DJ, how do you think you navigate that path nowadays?
That's definitely happened. Well done for saying the question quickly, first of all. It's very good. It's like
Too fast for radio.
That's definitely happened, but also you've got more radio platforms online now, more than ever before, and you've got more local radio stations online. So they're not Swansea Sound or Red Dragon FM as they used to be, but they are Radio Platform or LTS or Soho Radio or Radio Cardiff, so there are lots of other platforms out there, and I suppose that would be the way to do it, I guess.
I think there's value to be had in podcasting too. Yeah, very sort of cross-skilled between podcasting and radio presenting, and obviously podcasts on the rise.
Well, yeah, that's changed everything really. I've never done a podcast on purpose really, because I've stuck to radio.
I did it as like a kind of trial to see if I thought I want to be a DJ, but I don't know if I can.
I don't know if I can present, whether I would be good enough. So I did a podcast just as a test for myself.
Yeah.
And I did do quite well, so...
I mean, everybody can present, you know, and that's the beauty of having a microphone on your phone, is that everybody can present. It's just, it's whether you know, what do you want to say, and to who, and about what, really. Just figuring that bit out and finding that niche. But I suppose podcasts prove that niche is good.
You can talk about, you can make a podcast about anything.
That's right. That's right.
Happy?
Thanks for your question. Good luck with it.
A lovely question. Right, Huw, thank you so much. Diolch o galon I ti for your time today.
Thank you, Molly. Thank you so much.